Hello and welcome to the Voice of Liberty podcast. My name is Henry Conley, and it is great to be back with this podcast finally. Thank you all who have stuck around on the page, first off, during our slightly brief time away. And I'm glad for whoever hops on to this and enjoys this interview tonight. We're kicking things off with a local PA candidate who's running for lieutenant governor in 2022. His name's John Waldenberger, a great friend of mine. I'm going to bring him on the stream here. John, welcome to the Voice of Liberty yet again. How are you doing tonight?
And thank you for having me as your first guest back. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for being the guinea pig for bringing this whole thing back. So, being flat out honest with anybody that watches this, I totally skimped on preparing anything for this interview, unlike what I typically do. So we're going to be winging this one and just trying to have a nice free-form conversation here and see where it takes us. So, I guess first off, let's talk about like past runs here. You've been a perennial, or not a perennial, but a frequent candidate for a certain office. And what made you decide that you were going to stop running for Mr. Malgary's seat and run for Fetterman's seat?
Well, I didn't say I wasn't going to run for both.
Fair enough.
At first, I have to actually get the nomination from the Libertarian Party of Pennsylvania at our convention. I'm kind of hoping that we kind of make it happen this year instead of 2022 convention, which would give our candidates a lot more time to prepare. But if not, we'll see what happens next year in, I'd assume, March. But yeah, and if it doesn't work out, then yes, I will be continuing to run for PA 53 because it's my home district, and I want to, at the very least, give voters another option. Besides the same tier two old parties.
So, running for lieutenant governor, what was the thought process behind choosing that specific position to run for?
What thought? There was no. Well, no. I mean, I actually originally was going to put my hat in the ring for governor, but there's just between COVID and everything going on. As you can see, I'm in my my store right now, and because the way things are, just governor just was too far of a reach. And frankly, I really like one of the folks that's also seeking the governor nomination. So I kind of want him to be our governor candidate. So kind of a, I guess you could say in a way doing it as a favor for him. Not as a favor, but I really like chances of Mr. Solosky being our candidate. So I have a, self-admittingly, I have a little bit of a passionate mouth, if you will. I need someone to tame me in.
Yeah, Joe Solosky, he's someone that I'm working on getting on the podcast right now. Yeah. Of course, I wanted to get through tonight's episode before I started scheduling out more interviews. But so you decide, hey, I'm going to go from running for state House of Representatives to lieutenant governor and president of the PA Senate. It's a fun jump right there.
Oh, yeah, but, yeah. Why not?
Why not? Why not? Before we get into like policy and stuff like that, and the guts of running for office, for people that haven't seen my previous interview with you, for people that haven't met you, and if you're in Pennsylvania and haven't met John, you're missing out. He's a very interesting but wonderful character to be around. And you'll definitely need a pair of his socks. But I'm sure you'll get to that. Tell the people, that will end up watching this, a little bit about you, who you are, what you do. And
so, I mean, just the short version, I'm just, an average Pennsylvania citizen. I'm a business owner, married. I have 3 kids. So you could say I have a lot of vested interest in what happens in our state. I mean, I'm a lifelong, native to Pennsylvania. Pretty much lived in the same general area all my life, give or take a few brief periods between school and family obligations. But, I just want a better life for my kids and future generations, and I am not one to just sit idly by and be complacent and let other people, do things and not do them right. The age old saying, if you want something done right, do it yourself,
Yeah, definitely. That is a very appropriate adage when it comes to politics in general. So, you know, continuing on this little bit of about you, how'd you come to become a part of the Libertarian Party?
Uh, uh, where's our Easter Vice Chair Jen to tell this story? She tells it better than I do. So so I started out at the ripe old age of 18, registering as, yes, a Democrat. And I'm saying this because there's some friends of mine who accused me of being a Democrat. I was once, yes, but I didn't know better then. I only knew that there were two parties, Democrats and Republicans, and at the time George Bush was president, and I was not a fan of George Bush. Ever since, especially since 9/11, I was not a fan of the war in Iraq, and so I thought the Democrats were the anti-war party. And so, as a naive young college 18-year-old freshman, I voted for Obama. Oh boy, was I wrong. So, but then, life happened, and I realized right around 2012 that there were other options, and realized that a lot of things that I believed lined up along with the Libertarian Party. Um, so I was kind of like a closet libertarian for a few years. I stayed registered as a Democrat just because I wanted to vote in the primaries, because, guess what? We're not allowed to participate in taxpayer-funded primaries. Shocking, I know. But so I, and then was it 2017? Yeah, 2017 came around, and by this point, I was a hardcore libertarian. I just never changed my registration again because I wanted to participate in the primaries. And I would occasionally write myself in for an office if I didn't like the candidates running. Um, and accidentally wrote myself into a small position, minority inspector in Telford Borough. And at that point, I realized, all right, this is the time to jump ship, and I'm not going to be a elected Democrat. I will be an elected Libertarian. So I immediately changed my party registration and reached out to the Montgomery County Libertarian Committee. I said, and the state party, I said, where are the Libertarians at? Get me on board, because I just got myself elected, and I want to make sure that this keeps going. So, and it's been that way since. I've been with the Montgomery County Committee for a while. I've been the secretary for the last year and a half. I'm also now the chair of the Bucks County Committee, because living in Telford and also being a business owner in Bucks County, I have a heavy interest in Bucks County affairs as well. And when the previous chair stepped down, he asked that I take over for him. So
just to backtrack for a second, just to make sure we understand this correctly, you weren't a fan of the war criminal named George Bush, and you also weren't a fan of the war criminal named Barack Obama.
No.
Okay.
To be honest, though, after the last 4 years of atrocities we just had, I probably would have rather had Bush back in office.
Yeah,
at least he had a sense of humor.
I tend to agree with you on that one. At least Bush could dodge a shoe without. At least Bush could dodge a shoe without falling over. So you're treasurer of the Monco Libertarians. You're the chair of the
secretary.
Or secretary. Yeah, treasurer. Oh my God. I hope Paul doesn't watch this. He might throw something at me. You're secretary of the Monco Libertarians. You're chair of the Bucks County Libertarians. You are just deeply vested in the Libertarian Party, which is really nice to see within someone running for something as prominent as, either the governor or the lieutenant governor's role. So with that being said, of course, we got to talk about, policy. We got to talk about
Of course.
the guts of this whole entire thing. And I guess the best way for me to do this before I start flinging just random questions at you, and just to catch you off guard, because that's
Okay.
the new way we're doing this podcast.
That
Is
works
we're
for
trying
me.
to catch candidates off guard. Let's get them real. Let's talk about kind of walk me through some of the policy stances that you have, and then we'll discuss each one.
Okay. Well, I mean, I could say in general, I mean, I pretty much fall in line with pretty much everything that the platform stands for. Limited government. But here's the thing, though. I'm a realist. Okay. No one's gonna like a libertarian just jumping in and ripping stuff to shreds. As much as we would love to do that, we can't, sadly. So, but here's the thing. That's the beauty of the entire system that we have, okay? Is it's a system of compromise, okay? There are ways we can incorporate libertarian philosophy and still have some of the things that people still want and still enjoy. I mean, first and foremost, the biggest thing that I like about the position of lieutenant governor is that they're on the top seat of the pardon board, and I would make sure whoever our governor candidate is, if somehow people finally saw the light and put us libertarians in office, is that every single person on that board is 100% behind getting every single person that is incarcerated for a non-violent offense, especially drug possession, and we're gonna be shooting pardons like they're going out of style to get people out of prison. Because first of all, that's going to free up a lot of money for other programs that people want funded. I mean, yeah, I know libertarians talking about funding stuff.
No, but I have to agree with something you're saying there, because one of the things, and John, you've known me for a while, one of my biggest open criticisms, and you'll probably remember this from Philadelphia when we were, having the nice presidential debate. One of my biggest criticisms always was candidates like pretending they're going to go into office and they're going to be able to implement like the libertarian utopia right out the gates, completely ignoring the fact that there are peoples whose lives literally depend on programs being funded.
That is true.
So it's super refreshing to hear that there is this recognition that this is necessary. The other thing that I love that you said there is pardoning non-violent offenders, getting them out of prison. So what you're saying is that your plan is to issue more pardons than probably Barack Obama and Trump combined?
More, pretty much, yes, yeah.
I like it.
Let's look at it this way, okay? How the way I like to say it is, what does putting someone in prison with 3 hots and a cot for, say, smoking a joint do to fix society? It doesn't. No
Correct.
one was wronged by someone having a good time, I mean, now if that person say was drunk and in a DUI, that's another story,
Yes.
Someone was harmed. There was an actual victim to that person's actions. If there was no victim to the crime, why are taxpayers on the hook for it? Why should we be on the hook? And on the other side of that, so we'll say theft, for example. Now that is a victim. That is a crime with a victim. Okay, I'm sure we can all agree on that. But what does, again, putting someone up in a box with 3 hots in the cot, how does that bring justice to the victim? It doesn't. They're still paying for it. Now they're paying for it with their taxes. Now, that person should actually, pay the person back, maybe some interest, and then be, sentenced to do some community service,
Oh, so some restitution towards the victim
exactly.
and the community.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's a logical idea.
Yeah, and if someone, right, you'll get the argument, well, what if they can't afford? Okay, well, find something. People can be. We're humans. We have these things in our head called brains. Let's use the brain that we have and think of something. What would make this right?
Correct.
Um, what would make these actions correct? What was wrong?
So within, talking about pardoning nonviolent offenders, of course, there's another topic of conversation that comes in there, which would be some sort of reform to the penitentiary system.
Mm.
And I'm kind of curious what you think about that, what your idea might be towards that, because I look at prisons like SCI Phoenix, which just opened in Montgomery County 2 years ago.
The new building, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
the brand new building. It was opened massively over budget.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't seem like there's any sort of reformation process involved in the jailing system, especially within that penitentiary. And that's been one of my biggest gripes with any penal system in the United States is there's no sort of rehabilitation.
Yeah, I mean, and it depends on the institution. From talking to my cousin who actually is a corrections officer in another county. She, I know maybe I think she's parole officer now. I don't know. She does work for a prison though, a state prison in another county. And from when I was talking to her, it depends on the institution. Some do have some programs, but a lot don't. I mean, granted, I haven't looked at SCI Phoenix since they've moved. I do know that the building was necessary. I mean, the old
Oh, without a doubt,
the
the old
old
building
Greater
was.
Ford Penitentiary, that was disgusting.
Oh yeah,
I've seen inside there. Not locked up in there.
he's
I've
incriminating
seen the
himself.
inside. But never
Have you
been
ever
to
wanted a
prison.
lieutenant governor that was in a penitentiary?
There's headlines.
Yeah, right. There you go.
Yeah, no, but yeah, the old prison was seriously needing a major overhaul, and it was better that they did just build a new prison. Yeah, it was way over budget, but I honestly, that's the whole purpose, in my opinion, of incarceration. It should be, to make someone better. When they come out, they should be better than what they were. The purpose should be to learn what you did wrong, why it was wrong, okay, and then on top of that, become a better person so that when you're out, most of these people that come out of prison, especially even for drug use, they end up back in within at least 30 days from being released because
Yep.
they don't know better. They've only ever known this, and this might be their safety net in a way. That's a bad way of putting it, but that
I mean,
that's what
it's frankly honest.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, when they're not provided with an education to give them a skill or whatever, a reoffending rate is going to stay high.
right. I mean, you see in the movies, the movies glorify prison. I mean, Green Mile and Shawshank Redemption are two of my favorite books that have gone movie, and you do actually, granted this is a different time period, but you see them in there and they're reading, they're learning, they're trying to become better people, most of them. But and granted, it's fiction, but that's kind of what it should be, a chance to make yourself a better person, so that when you're done, you've paid your debt to society, and you can, hopefully correct those actions and be productive and make society better. I would
I mean,
love
that's
to see
the
that.
end goal.
Yeah, ideally.
So moving right along into, we've had a nice, decent conversation here on pardoning people, but what other changes, what other policy are you looking to bring to the table as lieutenant governor?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, also too, the role of the lieutenant governor is not technically one of policy making. I mean, the primary function of the lieutenant governor is to support the governor, and then also as the president of the Senate. Um, especially if it comes down to tie breaking, which in our historically speaking, ties aren't an issue so much. We have a Republican majority, but I mean, I would love to see a lot of things change. I would like to see. Um, I don't know how much of an effect I would have on it as lieutenant governor. I mean, let's look at Mr. Fetterman, for example. He is one of the biggest the highest ranking elected official in Pennsylvania that is fully on board with decriminalization.
Yep.
And he has been there. Well, I think he's only been in for the last 4 years. There's, I
Pretty
believe.
sure he's only been on this term, yeah.
Yeah, he's only been on this term. So, never even heard from the last lieutenant governor Wolf. But Fetterman, I mean, he's one of the biggest biggest decriminalization guys that are elected to office right now, and I would just speak and be a voice for changes I want to see. And just do my best to encourage our legislature, even in both houses, to bring these things about. Um, I one thing I would like to see actually, and this is speaking as a parent, I would like to see some changes in our education system. The current system we have right now, I mean, we have one of the better, out of the country, we have one of the better schools, but I think we rank like 25th, 24th. So we're about halfway down the list. I'd like to see us at the top, of course.
Yep.
I'd like to see, a system almost identical to the way it is in Japan. I mean, yes, they have government funding, but they have a lot of choice when it comes to school.
Okay.
You have your public school, your private school, and your charter school, and even then, with those schools, some schools have different specialties. You can get a school that has a specialty in, say, the arts, a school with a specialty in the sciences and math. This one size fits all approach that we take does not work.
Yep.
And being, again, like I said, I'm a native. I'm a product of Pennsylvania public school education. I know what it's like, and as a parent, I see what it's like. It doesn't work for everyone. Um, I'd like to see students. Yeah, students will do better when they're able to pursue their passions. Anyone does
Correct.
better when they're able to pursue their passion. So if a kid wants to become a musician or a music teacher, you know, I mean, yeah, there is science and math involved, but pushing standardized tests and only pushing the standardized tests in math and English, that's not going to help them achieve these goals that they want in life.
Correct.
On top of, and then kids come in unprepared for college, um, which that's a whole other story. But that the feds got to get out of that, and that's a federal issue we got to deal with too.
Well, within the schooling thing, and I'm glad you bring that up because it's one of the gripes I've always had with the public school system is that it doesn't allow a child to um, follow their dreams per se and really work towards their end goal. I mean, um, put it my way. I had no intentions of going to college. I had no intentions of doing anything that involved biology or chemistry, yet I was studying them when
Right.
really all I wanted to do was sit behind a lighting desk in at a concert and make it shine.
Yeah,
The
I mean, to
thing
be fair, it doesn't hurt to learn some of these things, but you don't want to put such a heavy focus on them because naturally they're going to do poor in that subject if they're not motivated. You know,
correct.
and if you have a school that specializes in the arts, that school can put a spin on those subjects that apply. All right, so like we'll say biology. I mean, in a performing arts school. Well, let's talk, or science in general in a performing arts school. Okay, well, let's talk about how science applies to the body when producing tones to speak or to sing, good diet and exercise and overall fitness, how that's important and how that plays a role in life. Um, you know, things, history. Okay, well, history. You got history of music. You got history of theater. And oh well, while this was happening in the theater world, this was happening in the world. It's still important to learn all these things, but that school then can put a special twist on it that still piques the interest of these kids and doesn't get them falling asleep in class.
Tie it into what they enjoy, make it
Exactly.
relevant,
Exactly.
which is a logical thing. Another thing that you brought up there was a thing that I absolutely hate, which is standardized testing.
Believe
Um,
me.
Absolutely, just it's such a flawed thing. And I just don't understand how you can base funding on whether a school is doing really good or really bad. And beyond that, subjecting kids to this like idea that if they suck at their testing, that the school's going to suffer, just it's too much to put on the shoulders of a student. It's too much stress.
Right.
What do you see as a way to move away from that, or an alternative to get away from that?
Well, first of all, get rid of the tests altogether. I mean, you and I were growing up right around the time when that's when they really started pushing these stupid tests.
Yep.
I hated them. I mean, apparently I did really well on them, but I still hated them. And in general, I didn't do well on tests. I would fail maybe like a math test, but I did really well in the math portion of the SAT. It doesn't make sense. But it, even as a parent now, I see it like, kids that need more one-on-one attention can't get it uh, because they have to move along with the rest of the class, and everyone has to be on the same page with this test. Um, Now we can look at this also with the funding side of things. Why should performance affect funding? It shouldn't, because again, you have the one size fits all model, which does not work.
Yep.
Excuse me. You have kids that just aren't interested in those subjects, and then you have other factors, social economic factors that come into play that you can't necessarily account for. So, what's the solution? Everyone gets the same amount of funding. Um, Whether it's a school in Philly or a school in the most privileged white suburb in Pennsylvania, with the highest social status that you can, uh, you, all the public schools should have the same amount of funding per student, regardless of where they are. And that's kind of why you have this issue with schools failing horribly in Philadelphia and other. And I don't know how Pittsburgh is doing, but being on this side of the state, all I hear about is Philly, and
Yep.
their schools are failing, and that's why you have so many Catholic schools in the city. Um, you know, all the parents were sending their kids to the Catholic schools because the Catholic schools were doing much better, and then the charter schools came around, and then now suddenly the entire public education system in Philadelphia is falling apart because all these kids are going elsewhere besides the public school.
Correct.
you know if the funding was set per child, um, that would alleviate a lot of things. We can make sure that every child has the resources they need. We can make sure the school gets what they need, and we can also make sure the teachers are appropriately compensated too. Someone, I don't know how well this would actually work, but in theory, it sounds great. There's that age old meme post that goes around. Let's pay our teachers like we pay babysitters. $8 an hour. For what, 6 hours a day, and pay that per student. Well, now a teacher's going to make six figures. Where's all this extra money go? Granted, you got to pay for the property, upkeep of the building, but still, if you think about it, if you're paying the same amount per child, no one's left out, no one's left behind. And then, yes, obviously you're going to have to put extra resources for those with special needs. But, that if you're paying, like, say, 12,000 per child for a neurotypical student that doesn't have any special needs or require any extra assistance, then you can take an extra 10,000 to help a child with special needs.
No, that makes absolute sense. Now, something I just want to jump back to real quick, of course, is going back to the role of lieutenant governor. And of course, you are right. Policy is not necessarily a function of the office, but it is something to that's always good to address. And for anybody watching this, I mean, think about the policies of your lieutenant governor. Probably not all that much there. And speaking on Fetterman, I mean, you are right. He has been one of the biggest proponents of decriminalization that I've seen in recent memory, as far as this state goes. And for fun, I just want to get something here. So, hypothetically, you and Joe Solosky get elected, okay? Fetterman refers to himself as not only the lieutenant governor of Pennsylvania, but he refers to himself as the anger translator for Governor Tom Wolf. What would you be for Joe Solosky? Just out of pure curiosity.
With all due love and respect for Joe, I look at us as the boomer millennials. I mean, yeah. I know. Millennials in the media get a bad rap, but believe it or not, millennials are not the stupid kids eating Tide Pods. Okay, the millennials are people like you and me. We are the millennials. We are that generation that grew up, that is basically that came of age in the new millennium, and we're the next generation. So
you would be millennial to Governor Joe Solosky.
Yes.
All right, perfect. I like that. Millennial translator.
We could call him Grandpa Joe, and not be creepy like.
I was gonna say that might invoke some
Grandpa Joe
images. So, I want to talk about something else here, and this is, of course, something that's super important. It's super contentious, but it needs to be discussed. So. This topic is already being projected as being a topic that will be discussed during the 2024 presidential primaries and the presidential race, because the foreseeable impact of it will still be being felt. Now, running in 2022 for lieutenant governor and, of course, for governor, this will be even more prominent, especially here in Pennsylvania, depending upon how the next few months go. And that, of course, is this wonderful C word that has been sticking with us since last year, and that is COVID. And it's, of course, been one of those nice contentious topics. You have the people that are anti-mask, you have the people that are anti-lockdown, pro-mask, anti-vaccine, you name it. It's out there. What we're not getting enough of is people talking real logical steps. So I guess backing up, what would you have liked to see Governor Wolf do when COVID first came? Now, of course, when COVID first hit the shores of America, you and I were hanging out in Philadelphia.
Yep.
Possibly not really sure if we were passing it off to each other. So
I was hearing it from my wife, because that's when the rumor mill started going down, and things are getting really bad, and things might start happening. And I got an earful from my wife. You better not come back with COVID from that. But, I mean, we had people coming in from different parts of the country.
Oh yeah. I mean, we had people flying in from all over the country, and
or driving on a bus, Yeah.
So, of course, there are people that praise what Governor Wolf has done as far as handling this. There are people that crucify him, and then there's people that sit in the middle and they're like, well, yeah, okay, you did that good, you did that bad. What do you going back, if you had the opportunity to be like the bug in his ear telling him what to do, what would have been your approach? Just knowing what you know now, not having any of the inside knowledge that he has from his agencies.
Well, first and foremost, it should have never gotten as far as it did. It shouldn't have gone down to the states having to take action. What should have happened, and I know Joe Jorgensen mentioned this a lot, and I was, also on board with this before. I think before I even heard her talking about it, was this should have been dealt with at the federal level first and foremost, because this could affect a lot of people. I know it's controversial, but uh, we should have stopped travel in and out of the country. And I know some Trump supporters say, well, he tried that. He wasn't doing that for that reason.
Yeah.
So a little credit if you want, but no. What should have happened was like what we'll say, like New Zealand. Well, take a page out of New Zealand. Granted, they're an island, and they don't really have connection to a mainland or anything like that. But shut off.
There
all
are
travel.
comparisons that can be drawn.
Yes, shut off all travel going in and out except for citizens coming back here and any citizens from other countries going home. Okay, so just make it one way for those who need to go home, basically. And that being said, too, anyone coming in, frankly, should have been put in a quarantine. The travelers coming into especially coming in from countries in Europe and China, and that were already feeling the full effects. Like as soon as we heard about this, we should have been taking a precaution there and requiring those people to quarantine, not general everyday healthy citizens like you and me, who were just out there trying to live our lives and take care of our families and do what we need to do. It should have been the people coming in and out that would have mitigated. That's kind of what we did for every other health crises pandemic that has gone down, at least that I recall, in the last 10 years. We did it with the Zika virus. We did it with Ebola.
I was going to say we did it with Ebola.
Most recently with Ebola, you were quarantined at the point of entry. That is where the quarantine should have been. And then maybe if someone maybe did get through, then quarantine that person. Okay, don't quarantine people who don't need to be. Uh, virus. As a friend of mine likes to say, virus is going to virus. Okay. Look at the flu. I mean, yeah, we've had a vaccine for the flu for years, but it's a constantly evolving virus. But there's no way we're going to be able to totally stop it. But there are things we could have done to prevent it, or to slow it down at least. But that should have been that should have been taken care of at the federal level. Now back to the state, because obviously the ideal situation didn't happen. Hands down, the forced mandated shutdowns. I called it day one when Wolf said it's only going to be 2 weeks. No, it wasn't going to be 2 weeks. I could see it coming. 2 weeks turned into 3 to 4 to 8, and eventually, before we knew it was almost 2 to 3 months of shutdown, and so many businesses have gone under since. I was fortunate, and for me personally, I was fortunate and managed to keep things under control. But it could have been worse for myself, and it was for many other businesses. You got now you see reports coming out. Amazon, well, you've seen it even by June. Amazon, Walmart, record-breaking profits. Billions of dollars. I mean, personally, I don't care. That's great. If the company's doing good, that's kind of the whole purpose in a way of going into business, to make money. But the only reason these big businesses are doing so well is because you just choked off and strangled all the small businesses. Me being a small mom and pop, music store. Well, I was told that I was not essential by the health department, but I provided services that included cleaning and sanitation of musical instruments. So how is that not, essential to stopping the spread?
Yeah.
I could have, and I mean, frankly, I did. I didn't close totally. what I did was I put a sign on the door and said by appointment only. Only one or two people in at a time. Mask required. Here's some hand sanitizer. Okay. I didn't. Any small business could have done that on their own. They didn't need a government mandate coming down and telling them that this is what they need to do and that they need to be closed. Restaurants. Yeah, the governor should have said these are recommendations. This is what you should probably do if you can, and then also should have had a plan in place ready to go. Uh, to should anyone have had to shut down. The way I look at it as the Fifth Amendment has what's called the taking clause, that government really can't shut you down or take away your business, so to speak, without proper compensation.
Correct.
So there should have been proper compensation set up ahead of time. With the pandemic, self-employment, unemployment assistance, uh, it wasn't ready until almost July, I think.
Something like
So
that. Yeah.
yeah, it took almost 10. It was like 10 weeks or something for them to finally get. I think they passed the CARES Act, and then it was still another, 6 or 7 weeks before Pennsylvania even had anything in place. They should have just let us apply through the normal unemployment channels. But then again, the current unemployment system was a total crap show. I mean, I even know that from personal experience because I did have a while back. I had to file for unemployment when I was in transition, and trust me, it's a crap show. I mean, you can't get a hold of anyone, and let alone and then now you put a couple million more people on the unemployment rolls, and now the system's already backlogged. Even the new updates they just dropped down on Monday, the system is already crashing. The
Yep.
website was crashed within an hour.
So just to, of course, because I got to be this guy, I got to push back just a tiny bit here. So, we're not going to push back on the national level. We're not, yeah, there were failures, absolutely, 110% at the national level. And I don't think anybody besides the most diehard cultist could possibly deny that in any way, shape, or form. But I guess here's where I would push back just a little bit, and just to see what your thoughts are here. Looking at some brief historical, I guess, research that they're doing right now, they've been able to determine that COVID was possibly here prior to us even realizing it.
Right.
And with that being said, and for a certain group out there that wants to take this out of context, don't. Instead of locking down to prevent people from coming into contact with each other, practicing physical distancing, what measures could have been taken to ensure that people weren't congregating in the spaces where they could have been transmitting this? Because I recognize that I see people walking into businesses without masks currently.
Mm-hmm.
And, when this first hit, I mean, mask wearing was even further few and far between than it is now. So what do you think Pennsylvania could have done to help stop this congregating of people? What would have been a legitimate action taken by them?
Honestly, I don't feel that there's anything that the government could truly have done. I mean, because look at that. Even look at the shutdowns as they are. You still have people, that were like myself, defying those orders and operating our businesses. Because let's face it, it's going to cause a huge mess. Either way, it's going to cause a huge mess. Um, that being said, though, from a human standpoint, I guess you could say, uh, well, humans, yeah, we're all selfish pieces of poo. I mean, that's nice. That's a PG way of saying it, but yeah, it's true. We're all selfish in some way. Um, we should have done things. There's a lot of things that we should have. I mean, I see nothing wrong with going out, wearing the mask. I personally, I have trouble with them, but that's just something I need to get over. Um, you know, but we need to. Yeah, we just need to take a little more of a voluntary, voluntary approach, I guess you could say. And just trying to see doing the right thing for others. I know that gets pushed back and labeled as that ugly, ugly S word, socialism. But it's
You
not.
mean that one that gets tagged to me?
But if you're doing it voluntarily, and there's nothing wrong with the government saying, hey, because they in a way they do have the resources to see the general scope of something. Hey, this is going to be a big problem. These are things that you probably should do. And let's take mask wearing for example. In a lot of Asian countries, uh, China included, mask wearing is a normal part of everyday life,
Correct.
especially this time of year during flu season. Um, People will, if they feel like they're getting sick, they will wear a mask. Some people will wear it because they don't want to take the chance of someone, being sick and not wearing a mask. But it has shown, well, so they're wearing actual surgical masks, not
Yeah,
fabric pieces, but
actual
yeah,
N95 masks.
yeah. I don't think
As
there's
I
anything
knock
that
my
more
box
of an
across my
N95
floor.
mask. I think most of them I've seen are just wearing general surgical masks. But even that general surgical mask, even a cloth mask, it's better than nothing. You
Yeah.
know, granted, yes, follow the science as some people like to say, but then deny it for other things, which we could cover at another time. But if you a piece of fabric, covering your face is better. I mean, when you cough or sneeze, what's the proper thing to do?
Yep.
Into your arm, right? If you're wearing long sleeves, guess what? Fabric, okay? It's better than nothing, you know. People are so polarized these days, and I think that is part of the big issue with this whole thing. People were so polarized, and then because it came during a big election, it got overly politicized,
Yep.
to the point where, I mean, in part of several reopen groups, and the number one thing I hear is, "Oh, my rights! My rights are being violated because I walked into someone's business and they told me I have to wear a mask." Ah! Sorry, that is that person's place of business. That is their private property, and they have more of a right to tell you you got to wear a mask than you do to come in screaming like a crybaby. I don't think that and this bothers me because this also bothered me when it comes to, like, say, service animals versus emotional support. Yeah, emotional support animals to an extent are legitimate. I think there needs to be a better certification, for them. But anyone can turn around and say, "Oh yeah, this emu is my emotional support emu." Um, no, sorry, it's
Hey,
not.
listen, my lizard and my 3 cats are all emotional support animals, okay? And that's dead serious. I
But
don't want I don't want any of my libsock friends to think I'm making fun of that. I'm dead serious.
but yeah, but I mean, you get people abusing the system like that, and now they're abusing the system, uh, because these valid exceptions were put into the mask mandates of, if you have certain medical ailments, then you are exempt from having to wear the mask.
Yep.
Well, now everyone's claiming fake disabilities and claiming it's a violation of HIPAA and ADA when it really is not. But yeah,
I know someone that claims they have asthma.
yes. I mean, some of us actually do have it, and yeah, yeah. But yeah, I mean,
I have it and I wear a KN95 eight
yeah,
hours a day. I don't even know at this point.
right. Yeah, I mean, I'll wear. I mean, do I like wear? I don't like wearing things over my face in general. I feel claustrophobic. But if I'm going to go into a place of business, unless I actually truly forgot to grab it, or it's like a quick emergency, like the other day I went to Walmart because one of the kids that's potty training had to really go, and I'm not having an accident in my car. Sorry. I got yelled at, but I'm like, sorry, this is an emergency, But normally, I will respect another business's right to say you have to wear that mask. But people are just I don't know, I'm rambling, but it just
Well,
people are so quick to play the victim card and overly politicize and overly exaggerate things. And I think that's just a symptom of society where we're at right now. We need to start really truly need to start taking a step back, but there's nothing government can do about that.
well, and it's funny you say that. So, like, I have people that will ask me, will you continue to wear that mask post-pandemic?
Mhm.
And of course, anybody that doesn't know me, I'm a libertarian socialist over here. Yes, we exist, and yes, we are very much into like compassion towards others. And I always say to people, during flu season, if I'm feeling sick, yeah, I'm probably going to be popping one of these guys right back on. During anything that I think that I might be coming down with something that I don't want to spread to my coworkers, I'm probably going to pop one on just out, to be a compassionate, caring human being. This pandemic really has changed, my perception. And I've looked back and said, wow, I was being a pretty big asshole by not wearing one when I was sick around my coworkers. I realized that. But as we're coming up to the hour mark here, because of course I try and keep these to a nice hour crisp segment, I wanted to get to one last thing. And the reason I want to get to this one last thing is because I, like you, have so many friends that are part of the GSM community. And of course, it's still a contentious topic. It's still a topic that needs to be discussed. And PA has plenty of protections in place for the GSM community. But with that being said, is there anything else that you would want to see the state expand on as far as protections or anything else to do with the GSM community?
Well, I mean, for one, maybe not so much government, but as society, we need to. I mean, come on, it's 2021. You know, not to get unpolitically correct here, but gay people exist. Okay, trans people exist. Okay, it's their right to live their life as they see fit. Sorry, not sorry. I had to say that for a few people.
No, it's valid.
Yeah. I mean, I think Pennsylvania does pretty well. I mean, not to cause the controversy that Gary Johnson caused, but I think maybe we do need some protections in the non-discrimination laws that we have. Was it who was it? I think it was actually Fitzpatrick signed on as one of the sponsors for HB1. I believe it was 2 years ago, which was to actually include the LGBT community. Great. We're in a shift of what we call, how we label this, but the LGBT.
Anybody that doesn't know, GSM is
Yes.
gender sexual minorities.
Right,
It's a more umbrella term.
Yeah. We're trying to, he tried to include those in the current civil rights. Was it the what is that law? So I'm drawing a blank.
I'm blanking on it myself.
You know what I mean? That the thing. The thing.
The thing that's written by lawmakers.
Now. Yeah, the non-discrimination laws that exist. They try to include anyone that falls in that GSM umbrella, as part of that law, and it got shut down hard, especially by his fellow Republicans. I hate to say, but it's one of the few things that I've actually been 100% behind Fitzpatrick on.
Yeah.
But I think maybe we should have something like that in Pennsylvania. Now, before I start getting labeled a statist, that's because people suck.
Yeah.
I mean, let's face it. we shouldn't have to have a Civil Rights Act. We shouldn't have to have these special laws that basically just protect the same rights that you and I have. You know, we shouldn't have to have those. But the reality is, we need them until society just finally gets on the same page.
Correct.
I mean, you know, in a weird, you know, bringing up fantasy utopias, until we get to the point of where Star Trek and the Federation was with acknowledging, you know, how people are and their rights and existence. You know, unfortunately, we do need these laws and protections in place. Um, Bathroom bills. I mean, yeah, they kind of are necessary. Uh, Sorry, but a, you know, transgender person going into the bathroom is not, you know, going there to spy on your little girl. They are going because
Absolutely.
they have to do nature's business. Sorry. Uh, you're more likely, you know, it's just funny that they use that example of a trans woman. Well,
Yeah.
they say man because, you know, whatever. But yeah, a trans woman is going to spy on your little girl. Okay, well, what about the trans men? They leave them out.
Yep.
What about the, you know, the priests that were preying on little boys? You know, what about teachers? You leave those people out, but these people just actually going in to do their business are suddenly evil. You know,
Well,
how does
it
that
all
doesn't
falls.
account for like the man that's in the men's room spying on your little boy, you know? How
Exactly.
are they magically exempt, you
And
know?
it all falls back into that mental state that people seem to have, that, you know, someone born in the wrong body is a sexual predator or sexually depraved,
Right.
something like that. You know, and that's it all falls back to what you were saying there, where we as a society need to get with it.
Hmm.
I mean,
I mean, we didn't. It took us. I mean, we'll speak in like as far as American existence. I mean, it literally took us almost 250 years. Yeah, it took us up to basically the bicentennial to even finally acknowledge that uh, homosexuals in, you know, just homosexuality in general existed, and start breaking that stigma down, you know.
yep.
And even then it took another 30, 40 years for marriage equality to finally become, you know, a thing, you know, nationally. I mean, you had some states try back and forth, but it didn't become a full right until, you know, was 2014, I think it was. Yeah.
13 or 14, one of the two.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah. One of the few things I actually, you know, will praise Obama for, because he signed off on, you know, he signed off on it. You know, I know he had a history before, even during the initial election, of being, you know, marriage is one man, one woman.
Yes.
I'm waiting for someone to take that clip and take it out of context. You know, you know, for you know, he was against it, but then, granted, when the party was on board with it, then he changed his tune. But I'll give him credit because he signed off on it, you know, and
Correct.
after a while he saw the light. Um, you know, if he can see the light, if Hillary could see the light, hopefully more people will see the light. It needs to happen sooner though, because I'm getting tired of those arguments.
Same here. Now, so we've come up on an hour here. So let's cap this off with you know, how can people find you? How can people get in contact, get involved?
Mhm.
What do you need?
Well, I'm a cheapskate. Not gonna lie, no, no. But yeah, so primarily social media. You can look me up, John Waldenberger, for lieutenant governor, right on Facebook. Twitter, I think it's at Walden4PA. I should have double checked that beforehand. I believe though my Facebook, the quick search should also be at Walden4PA as well. If not, I'll have to fix that. I do not have a website right now, although that will actually change. You can also reach out to me through the Montgomery County and Bucks County Libertarian Committee. You can email me, and the shortest one would be Waldenberger 4, the number 4, PA 53rd 53 RD at gmail.com.
Awesome. Well, John, thanks for coming on the podcast tonight. Thanks for being the first guest on the relaunch of this. It's great to have Voice of Liberty back. And I'm going to take you off screen for a moment here, and I'll catch up with you after I end the stream. All right, folks, thank you for tuning into Voice of Liberty. I am very happy to have this podcast back. Tonight was the first of many candidates that I plan on having on the podcast. And if you are someone who wants to start exploring left libertarian thought and listening to us sitting down with left libertarian activists, learn about libertarian socialism, or at points how to even be an audacious libertarian, I recommend checking out the sister podcast to this one, which is the Podquest of Bread, and that is going to be relaunching as well, hopefully tomorrow if everything goes right. So again, thank you for tuning in to the Voice of Liberty podcast. My name is Henry Conley. Let